We are live. I'm joined today by my good friend Brandon Duprell. He resides in Alabama, but he is a resident Cowboys fan. So, Brandon, how are you doing today? I'm great. Disappointing loss to the Philadelphia Eagles. I know you are very familiar with those. Oh, well, then never mind. Very true. That Saints team is no joke, though. I think that, they got off to a slow start, and I think everybody kind of forgot how good that Saints team could be this year. And so they kind of snuck up on the Cowboys, but, they were really kind of a match made in heaven as far as like their rush defense against what the Cowboys want to do, obviously with Zeke and their run game. So it was actually a really good game to watch. So but on that note, that was the fourth game of the season, and this is a matchup, and it was what I call it, but basically I just want to talk about the matchup. And After 4 games of the season, I think you start to get a pretty good idea of what the team is and who is who is performing well and who isn't. So, give me your quick quarter of the season synopsis for the Dallas Cowboys.
All right, I guess we'll start on the offense. That's kind of everyone's favorite thing to talk about, and really the surprise for the Cowboys. I love Dak. I love him as a person, as a quarterback. I'm still not certain he's a franchise quality quarterback. I want to jump on the hype train. I want to believe that he's the next insert here, but I'm not fully convinced yet. And it kind of showed a little bit with the Saints in the secondary, especially with Lattimore. I still think you see a lot of progression in Dak. I still think he's played a lot better that week than he has in a lot of previous seasons. But I'm not fully convinced he's a Patrick Mahomes quality quarterback like people are kind of wanting to jump on. I would like to have seen that game with a healthy Amari Cooper. He was probably at 60-70%. He had an MRI this past week before that game. So you got to wonder how much that plays into it versus the Lattimore matchup. So it's not an easy analysis, but I would say Dak's definitely an improvement. Going to the next guy, Zeke. Gotta wonder if we didn't overpay him. I understand he's at worst the second best running back in the league, but you gotta think, was that money really that well spent? He's had 100-yard games, but against pretty less than talented defenses, and the Saints seem to have contained him. And it's still the same idea. They can just load the box. But I love having a healthier O-line. It's nice having all them back. It's amazing having a receiving core. We kind of didn't have one of those last year until about week 9 or 10. So, didn't know how much I'd appreciate Randall Cobb until we got him.
Yeah, Randall Cobb he's one of those guys that he plays very under the radar, but you don't realize the benefit and the value that he brings to your offense until he's making big touchdown catches, in clutch moments for your team. And he just does so much more that you're not going to see. He's not the flashiest guy, I guess, what I'm trying to get at. He just does all the little things right. So,
exactly.
Certainly missed a Green Bay.
And then, of course, your guy that you love, Gallup, he was certainly missed. Sounds like you're going to be more right than we all realized as far as his progression, if he stays on the trajectory he is currently on.
We'll see how that goes. I did not project him as the big play deep threat that he has become in Dallas. I thought he'd be a little bit more of a move the chains kind of guy. Did he catch that? No, he did not. It was a really weird play. He's become a much bigger playmaker than I thought he would be. I just thought he'd be a little bit more of a possession receiver, but he has kind of shown what he can provide to that Cowboys offense, because Cooper, I'm not going to say he struggled. He still did very well against the Saints. He had Marshawn Lattimore to deal with on Sunday, but it's been obvious through the first 2 weeks and then the next 2 weeks the impact that Gallup is going to have on this offense. So when he does come back, what kind of changes can we expect to see? Like, what have you seen from the first 2 weeks to the second 2 weeks? You know, what has been the biggest difference with him out?
So it's going to be a two-sided thing because it's pretty apparent that just the quality of point drastically increased week 4 than it was the first 3 weeks. So that'll be interesting to watch by itself. But like I said, Amari Cooper has a kind of a mystery injury. He went in for an MRI, and not much was really released to my knowledge outside of that. Mm-hmm. But having him is just night and day different. Gives your quarterback another option, another step in the progression, an actual threat. I mean, it's, you know, who would you rather have, Michael Gallup or Tavon Austin? It's that kind of comparison. It just allows you to stretch the field so many more ways. It makes them have to respect the passing game even more.
So, speaking of injuries, Tyron Smith, he got hurt against the Saints. You know, who is going to replace him? I haven't done my research there. Maybe I should have. But who's going to replace him? And, you know, what can we maybe expect from that replacement?
They haven't flat out said. We're very good/bad at shuffling people around. I don't really think they're going to move a starter somewhere else. I'm not quite sure who they're going to put there. From what I've read, they're experimenting. So
okay.
We'll hopefully they announce that pretty soon, or something a little more reliable.
Yeah, because I saw on Sunday against the Saints that it was number 75. I didn't catch the back of his jersey, who it was, because it was only for like the last drive. But I caught it was number 75, and he was not very good. He was kind of getting pushed back into Dak's lap on the 3 plays he was in. He was in Dak's lap on every single play. So I don't know if that's who they're going to go with, you know, considering that was the de facto go-to at that point in time. But, you know, that might be an area that the Packers can exploit. Oh, wow. Okay, just going to stand there. That the Packers can exploit on Sunday, because the other thing that I want to talk about too is this is basically a national game. It's basically a primetime game because of the way that they slotted the scheduling for this game, and it kind of has to be with Packers and Cowboys. I'm not going to lie, it's one of the most premium matchups you can get in today's NFL, and it's going to be, I think, a knock 'em down, drag out fight. I think it's going to be a defensive battle. So, you know, Tyron Smith being out for the Cowboys, Devontae Adams probably going to be out for the Packers. You know, who are you looking for to step up in Dallas as the guy to kind of help elevate this team? Let's say Michael Gallup is still ruled out for Sunday. Who's the guy that has to step up outside of Zeke, Dak, and Amari?
So outside of that crew, it's going to have to be maybe a Jason Witten, more of a leadership type role. Mm-hmm. I know he got brought in as a leader. He scored every week except for the past one on short little stuff. He just finds ways to get open. You're going to probably have a lot of safety valve type stuff with the secondary that you guys have.
Wow.
I'm hoping that Pollard can really have another coming out party. You know, we had 2 100-yard rushers against the Dolphins, Zeke and Pollard. So it'd be cool to see that happen again. Maybe get him involved in different ways. Based on the game against the Eagles, I think going to the Packers, our best bet is going to be the run game. It seems like physical isn't y'all's forte as far as stopping a team. And honestly, that still just better suits what we have going, what we have built, even with Dak's progressions.
You know, the run game is a big topic right now in Green Bay because obviously they've struggled the first couple weeks. The offensive line the offensive lines that they've played have not necessarily been the best. The Philadelphia Eagles were the best group of offensive linemen that the Packers have played so far, and they kind of had their way with this front. Before that, the defensive front was as impactful as it's ever been in Green Bay, and so something that we're getting used to is actually having a quality pass rush with a couple good edge rushers. But you know, I don't know if it's an epidemic yet. It's certainly a problem. I think that Mike Pettin, the defensive coordinator, is choosing to abandon the run defense a little bit and saying, hey, I'm going to make all these teams beat me through the air because, you know, when you look at some of the quarterbacks they played, Carson Wentz is the best quarterback they played so far. And he on paper, it looks like he had a good day because he threw for 3 touchdowns. However, he only threw for 160 yards. He was still under pressure. The run game was really the key in that game. If the Eagles don't run for, if they only run for 150 instead of 200 yards, I think the Packers win that game. And so it's kind of it's going to be fun to see because Pettine is just fun in general from week to week because he can change his. That's why he likes the players he likes, is because he can change his scheme on the fly and say, hey, this is what I want to do this week. And he did it last year because the rush defense for the Packers was actually really good last year. And now this year he's kind of flipped the script and he's focused on the pass defense and said, this is how I want to make teams beat me, and that's what he's doing. So I'm curious to see if he decides to come out against Dallas and says, I'm going to make them beat me through the air this time. I'm going to make them beat me on the air, and I'm going to defend the run. So, it's going to be something to watch for sure. Aaron Rodgers has performed very well in Dallas for what it's worth. I mean, maybe walk me through that experience as a fan, Aaron Rodgers coming into Dallas and playing the way he has.
He's always played well against us. Another fan fact, I think Dak has never beaten Aaron Rodgers, actually. Even though quarterbacks never actually play. I don't think he's ever beaten Aaron Rodgers. So it's a nerve-wracking game on paper, and watching the Eagles game, you think, we have a good matchup. They're able to run the ball. That's really our forte. As far as O-line, ours is at least as good, if not better, depending on who you ask, compared to the Eagles. But like you said, beating the Cowboys right now, the idea is prove that Dak can do it. Make him beat them to actually beat you. And I do think that's going to be something the Packers continue. The biggest thing is going to be how quick can Amari Cooper get healthy. I don't think Randall Cobb can come and steal the show. He was brought in to be a third receiver, to be a slot guy. And if he's running around being the number 2 dude, I think that's going to just make it even easier to just load the box and potentially just play man all day.
Well, a big part of the Packers' struggles, I would say, in the run defense area is probably the lack of linebacker. I mean, Oren Burks went down early in the year for Green Bay. He's probably close to coming back. They said it was about 4 to 5 weeks of a recovery timeline, and we're hitting that 5th week now. So he should be back soon. Oh wow, what a play! And when he comes back, I feel like it's going to change a lot on this defense because he just provides another dimension from that middle linebacker spot that they haven't really had in a long time. B.J. Goodson, oh goodness, wow! Again,
this should be in good shape.
B.J. Goodson, the linebacker they acquired from the Giants, has really kind of played sparingly. He's just kind of a role guy at this point. They're looking for impact outside of Blake Martinez from that linebacker spot, and I think that's something that Oren Burks can kind of give them. I'll be looking for Oren Burks maybe to get some playing time. I don't know if he's going to play yet. I just know he started practicing this week, so they might wait until a week after to actually play him. But the injuries really kind of started to rack up on the Packers against the Eagles. It didn't look like any of them were too serious, other than maybe Jamal Williams, but he's been back at practice, and you can recover from a backup running back getting hurt. Devontae Adams, his injury kind of sucks. It seems like it's only going to be a short-term run, maybe 1 or 2 weeks. However, it just sucks that it's coming at this time. So it's all going to be about who can step up. And because the Packers need to take on this Cowboys offensive line, as you were talking about, it's going to be about who can step up in that run defense as well. And Kenny Clark has been good, but he hasn't been as good as we've seen him be. And I think it's because they've asked him to do a different role or perform a different role this year. But they might ask the Smith brothers to kind of stay in a little bit more and defend the run. They've been kind of let loose so far. Rashawn Gary has I don't want to say he struggled. He has been kind of slow to start the year. However, he has shown flashes of improvement, so we might see him get some more snaps. It's gonna be a game of matchups, as it always is with Pettin. So Randall Cobb is gonna probably have an impact on this game, especially because I don't know if Michael Gallup is gonna play, and the Packers have not necessarily been able to defend this slot incredibly well. They've been serviceable. Where the Packers have been really strong is their safety play. So if you're looking at the secondary from a Dak Prescott perspective, where would you be looking to attack? With the revamped safety play in Green Bay with Jair Alexander, Kevin King, where are you looking to kind of attack the Packers from a passing perspective?
So this isn't so much a Packers-specific thing, but just more from the Cowboys' point of view.
Yeah.
From what we've had success doing, it has been a lot of the best downfield throws have been a lot of like two tight end set play actions, middle of the field. Mm-hmm. If you see a lot of the bigger plays have been off the play action, we have more success under center than we have out of the gun. I think it just gives you that idea that you have to respect that Zeke is going to run as a threat, that we've loaded up for that. So it almost seems as if Dak is more confident turning his back to the defense and then looking downfield than he was just out of the shotgun, reading the defense, which I find a little ironic considering Mississippi State, they played more of that Florida Tebow type offense where it was out of the gun, a lot of straight interceptions. Mm-hmm. A lot more of that kind of situation. It's just interesting to continue to watch it grow and develop. Him with Kellen Moore, each week you kind of expect to have the Dak Prescott that did good to throw for 200 yards, and then he comes out, you can see that he's going through first, second, third progressions and finding guys. But to answer your question, I think it's going to be mostly out of the play action, looking towards the middle of the field, trying to get safeties to cheat up and commit to covering an Amari Cooper or something like that. So I think it's going to be a big tight end based matchup.
It's kind of funny you mentioned play action because that's the key to the Packers offense now as well. With the adaptation of the LaFleur, Shanahan, McVay offenses, they're all a little bit different in their own right. But with those adjustments coming in this year, oh boy, he's just running routes right now. With that offense coming in this year, the play action has really kind of taken over this Green Bay Packers offense, and that's great because it helps keep the guys off of Aaron Rodgers, and it's going to help, ultimately him stay healthy and hopefully have an impact on this team for 16 games. But, kind of leading into that now then, the run game seems to be the key for both teams at this point because that's obviously what the Cowboys want to do. They just kind of want to run it down your throats. They want to get Zeke going, get him running downhill, and just churning out 5, 6 yard, 10-yard chunks. And the Packers need the run game to get going so they can set up their play action. And they're going to need it a lot more, because the absence of Devontae Adams is going to be a big thing on Sunday. And the Packers are going to need somebody to step up at the wide receiver position. I don't know if it's Marquez Valdez-Scantling or if it's Geronimo Allison, but they're going to need somebody to step up regardless. So I wanted to ask you, where has there been, if any, vulnerabilities for the Cowboys' pass defense, and how could the Packers possibly exploit it?
In my opinion, it's actually, Jeff Heath is probably the weakest point in the secondary. Mm-hmm. We don't seem to struggle too much with actual play action. We have a pretty strong pass rush. Getting Robert Quinn back and getting him in the rotation helps. Our linebackers are just pretty good in run support and coverage. So play action is not too intimidating, but going against Aaron Rodgers, you always have to be prepared for an aerial assault. Mm. And Jeff Heath is definitely a big concern. That's why we went after Earl Thomas. That's why there were rumors of trying to sign Eric Berry. Jeff Heath is a good serviceable safety, but he is definitely the weak link. So much so to the point that you almost wonder was it actually worth moving Byron Jones out the corner as much as he has succeeded there, taking him away from the safety spot?
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Byron Jones, do you think the Cowboys are going to be able to keep him?
I do not. I don't think we can afford it all. They're going to have to choose between Dak Prescott or Byron Jones, and I think they're going to go with Dak Prescott.
What about Amari Cooper?
I think Jerry Jones will sign him out of pride. I think the strategy will be to try to franchise tag him to buy some time to be more flexible with other contracts. But, I mean, you know, I'm sure we all are very aware of the character that is Jerry Jones. And for him to give up a first-round pick to basically, off the back foot.
Well, you caught it.
To basically, well, the secret was I was throwing to Elliott. But to basically trade a first-round pick to rent Amari Cooper for I guess 24 games doesn't seem very Jerry Jones-like to me. So he'll try to find a way to make that happen. And I'm sure we've all seen the very, very cringy interview where Amari Cooper and Dak Prescott, as we throw to him, go together like ketchup and hamburgers. So I think Cooper will try to be flexible and patient and find a way to stick around in Dallas.
Okay. You know, I think that a big reason for the Cowboys' early passing success has been because Dak has developed a pretty good chemistry, not only with Amari Cooper, but with Michael Gallup as well. You know, Randall Cobb, I think, is still trying to find his niche in that offense. He just kind of seems to be, I don't think he has a defined role at this point. You know, in the Packers offense, he was a very, very defined role for him. I guess you could argue he's taking over that Cole Beasley slot role, but it doesn't seem like that's really the case from, you know, play to play, week to week for him. However, you know, I think that the chemistry between Dak and his wide receivers is really kind of up to the game for them. And, no. Oh, God. That's the worst thing I could have done. And so I'm wondering, what can the Packers do to really kind of get Dak uncomfortable? You mentioned before getting the play action going and getting him, you know, kind of maybe in the flow of things from that perspective. What can the Packers really do to kind of make him uncomfortable and maybe make a mistake or two?
I think the answer is just in the film. You just go watch the Saints game and just copy paste. They, of course, they have Lattimore, but they were able to take Amari Cooper away. He's far and away our best receiver. And I think in the start of the third quarter, he had like 4 targets, 2 catches for like 7 or 8 yards. When he was, for the bulk of the game, he was completely removed as an offensive weapon. And especially coming out of the play action, when you are forced to go to your second and third progressions, those are just long developing plays. It makes it too hard to complete things, especially down the field. And if you can take away that first read, like assuming Amari Cooper is the first read, you take that away, you turn him back into Dink and Dak, and you can load the box back up and then slowly take the run game away and get that formula that everybody looks for, and to make Prescott really have to just drop back and beat you, that he still hasn't had a ton of success doing.
So then, from a Packers defensive perspective, who kind of scares you the most?
No particular player, but just the general secondary. From what I've seen, I can't say I've watched a ton of Packers football.
Yeah.
But I did watch the Bears game, and I mean, they were able to stay in Mitch Trubisky's pocket, but the secondary seemed like a lot of coverage rushes, a lot of coverage sacks, as opposed to just true pass rush. It's just when you're sitting there, okay, I got to find the guy. Well, he's not open. Okay, second progression, third progression. You know, you're not going to get 5, 6, 7 seconds every play. You know, you can even get 3 or 4 in the pocket back there. So I think the general secondary, the way it's performed, the way it's been coached, as we're still, I mean, the jury's still out on Prescott, so the general secondary itself is what worries me the most.
Okay. Yeah, you know, Jair Alexander is primed for an all-pro year at this point, at his current, we'll call it pace. Okay, it's no fair catch. You know, the way that he's playing, he probably should get an all-pro nod. Kevin King is finally healthy for once, and he's kind of showing why he was the first pick of the second round a couple of years ago. And, you know, that talent was very real with him, and it's finally starting to really surface. As far as Jair Alexander, I think he actually matches up incredibly well with Amari Cooper, and I think this is a very underrated, not talked about matchup that we're probably going to see quite a bit of. I have a feeling that Mike Patton is going to just throw Jair Alexander on Amari Cooper and say, win that battle. And, if Jair Alexander can do that, I think it's going to do a lot of other things for this Packers secondary. Because as you mentioned, there's a lot more talent there than there used to be. And they're making plays, they're generating turnovers. That's something they didn't do against Philly. I don't think that's going to become a norm. I do believe that this defense will consistently generate turnovers as they did the first 3 weeks. And so, kind of moving on to the Cowboys then from an offensive perspective, where have they really struggled then, if anywhere, I guess, because they are obviously 3-1 and they did lose to the Saints, but kind of what exactly went wrong against the Saints?
I still think that all starts with our number one receiver being potentially at 75% health, and then our number two receiver just not being active.
Okay.
I think that removed way too much of the offense to lose your top two threats. Your quarterback is still really developing in a new offense. Because like we said earlier, the general consensus to stop the Cowboys is to load the box, stop the run, and make Deck beat you. And you take his two best weapons away, it's just all the easier.
That's fair. And they were the high-powered Cowboys offense for the first 2 weeks. It makes sense, obviously, why they stalled. But kind of moving on then to the defense. Where should the Packers be looking to attack other than Jeff Heath? Because there is obviously a run game as well, but what exactly should the Packers be looking to do? Do you think the play action is the key to beating them, or do you think that they really need to kind of attack? I don't even know how to attack, because the Cowboys have a very good defense, so they just have a lot of good pieces everywhere except for obviously Jeff Heath. So if the offense is going to get going, we're talking Sunday night, and the Packers offense has put up 500 yards. What were they doing right?
I honestly think that it would just boil down to Aaron Rodgers found his rhythm, and he really just kind of takes our secondary apart. If you go back to was still a solid one for the Cowboys, no major complaints. But Case Keenum, if I recall, had a decent game and put up some yards. And I haven't done a side-by-side comparison in a while, but I would definitely think most people would take Aaron Rodgers over Case Keenum.
I think it's fair.
So it's the pass rush has got to get going, or I do believe that Rodgers will sit in and find his rhythm. And I think the Cowboys seem to go back and forth between a lot of man and zone. I think with y'all's new offense, new head coach, trying to be more creative in the offense, will give us a bunch of different looks, a bunch of different formations, trying to find the matchups he likes. I know it's been sort of a slow start for your offense this season, and I'm kind of hoping that y'all figure it out week 6 or 7, because I kind of don't want to be the example of how this offense can fire up. The pass rush can't get going.
Well, I honestly think that example has already been put in place. I think Philly was really kind of the blueprint for this offense as far as how they want to be successful. They really got the passing game going. Obviously, it's a battered Philadelphia defense right now, a battered Philadelphia secondary. So if the Packers hadn't got their passing game going, it would have been a real problem, And there's going to be a big asterisk on this game if Davante Adams does not play for this Packers offense, because they're going to be like, well, they're so much better with Davante Adams on the field. Obviously, we're just talking about the impact of Cooper and Gallup for the Cowboys. So this offense is probably going to struggle, and I think that's why this game has to be a defensive battle for the Packers to really win it, because I just think that without Davante Adams, it's going to be a really, really steep uphill climb. And I'm not sure that the next impact receiver after Davante Adams is on this roster right now. There's a lot of rumblings amongst Packer fans of who they're going to trade for, or if they could trade for somebody. And I think they kind of have to, because oh my God, okay, he dropped it.
I thought he caught it.
I think they kind of have to, because I'm not sure that Marquez Valdes-Scantling or Geronimo Allison are going to be able to fit that bill. So Jamal Williams is probably not going to play, so Aaron Jones is going to be likely the bell cow back. In your experience with Aaron Jones and the Packers running game, does the Packers running game scare you at all?
It honestly doesn't. I think it's the part of the game we can take away. Oh man,
Good play.
I like our linebackers. I think they just play really well. I think one thing that would worry me is not, I guess this can fall under run game in today's new offenses, but really screens. I do worry about that. Just with the fact that we come in the game probably fairly confident we can stop the run, and with it being Aaron Rodgers, I see it being a lot of pioneers back and rush for our D-line. So screens would be my bigger concern than true traditional lining up and running.
Okay.
We were able to, I know that y'all have more talent. Oh, goodness. I know y'all have more talent working for you guys than the Giants, but we were able to contain Saquon Barkley outside of that one big run he had early.
Yeah, I think people have forgotten how good this Cowboys defense is. I honestly do, because when they talk about, that was a terrible throw on my part. When people talk about the top defenses in the league, before the season it was all Cowboys, and now they've kind of been forgotten. I don't know why.
It's just the narrative of the overshadow of like, wow, look at Dak. I mean, this is a guy that's, all we've talked about all offseason is Zeke and Cabo. Can they re-sign him? Oh, Jerry Jones is picking Ezekiel Elliott. Now they're mad at each other. They're going to this, that, and the third. How can they afford all these guys? And then, okay, well, it's like Zeke's not going to be there. Prescott's going to have to prove his worth. And then he does sign at the last minute. I think Elliott. And then Prescott does come out and perform well. I think it's just the narrative has just completely overshown the talent. And then we have not, we are just going for a contest here. Based on the teams we have played, they're just not talented teams. I mean, the Dolphins have scored, 6 points all season, so our defense doesn't have to be that good. The Giants, under Eli Manning, are just a completely different team they are under Daniel Jones, obviously. And then you kind of wonder if the defense has played below its talent, because like I said before, Case Keenum kind of found a rhythm there on the back end. It was probably a little too late. But I do think this past Sunday is more what to expect from this defense. I know that Teddy Bridgewater is by no means a Drew Brees clone, but we were able to contain that offense to a very low score, and I think that is going to be something we're going to build on and move forward.
Sorry, I was focusing on that play there, and Jimmy Graham messed it up. The Packers defense too, it's massively improved over last year, and the last time the Packers had a top 10 defense, look what happened. They won a Super Bowl. So, he dropped that, damn it. The defense is gonna figure it out for Green Bay, and I'm looking at how they're going to attack this Cowboys team. I just think that they need to be technically sound. That was not a good throw either. They just need to be technically sound, because I'm not sure if the Packers are outmatched in this game, but you talked about the opponent integrity that the Cowboys have had so far. When you're looking at this 3-1 record, how are you feeling about this Cowboys team? Like, are you feeling? Oh wow, he's mossed everybody. How are you feeling like this is a legitimate 3-1, should be 4-0 team, or are you saying, we have not played the best opponents, and this is kind of our record to, we beat the teams we should be beating, but are we going to beat the other good teams? Like, how are you feeling?
So, I am historically a pretty pessimistic fan. I'm very bad about that was so-and-so, that wasn't that great, or let's make sure that wasn't a one-game fluke. So, I still do believe this can be a playoff team. I was a little more confident about winning the division prior to the Eagles winning Sunday. I was kind of thinking, wow, the Eagles are overhyped. Look at this. They're struggling against these very bad teams. They have all this talent that's just not there. The secondary is all hurt now. If we can get a good 3 or 4 game lead on them, we may never let go of it. We can win the division that way. I still think this is a very talented team for the Dallas Cowboys. I think it's easily a 10-win. Easily is a bit strong, but I do think it's a 10-win team. We're going to play the Redskins again, and maybe by then they have Dwayne Haskins starting, but it's never an easy win to start a rookie quarterback. Daniel Jones by then will have a little bit of experience, but still think that we can beat the Giants. So I thought there's no reason we shouldn't have at least 5 divisional wins, and that's halfway to 10. It's just with a 3-1 start, it's hard to think we would not be able to find 7 more wins this year. And I think the way the NFC tends to cannibalize itself, 10 wins gets you a wild card slot. So I do believe this is a playoff caliber team. To see with the NFC this year, the way it's going, who's the team to beat really? We just kind of saw that, the Rams scored a lot of points, but they just got beat by the Buccaneers, and nobody was afraid of them starting the season. The Packers, like you said, have a great defense, but the offense is still yet to really reveal itself. The Eagles have struggled. It seems like to me that the NFC is wide open to line up and get beaten by either the Patriots or the Chiefs. So, all that to say, I do think this is a team that can make the playoffs and potentially make it to the NFC Championship game.
I actually agree. We were talking before the season, and actually before Zeke came back, about the potential of this Cowboys team. Their championship window is now, and I don't think it extends much further than that. With the contract situations that they're going to be dealing with over the next few years. Oh boy, did he catch that? Oh, he did not. With the contract situations they're going to be dealing with over the next few years, I think that the Cowboys have to win now. And they're well equipped to do so. They're equipped in all the right areas. They have a serviceable quarterback, if not above average. They have a running game to milk games. They have a very good defense. They're just an all-around good football team. Jerry Jones has done well in Dallas. So, we've talked about a lot of the big name guys that are going to make impactful plays in this game on Sunday. But how about you give me one under-the-radar guy on offense and on defense to be an X factor for the Cowboys on Sunday?
I think Tony Pollard's going to be a huge factor. I think that's going to be the guy that's going to go unnoticed until the stat lines come in. You're like, oh man, he ran for 60 yards, had 80 yards catching, off screens or something. I think just focusing on Zeke so much, they were going to start seeing those 2-back packages really come into play, especially with receivers being out. I think Tony Pollard's going to be the offensive guy. Defensively, I think, even though I've kind of said he's our weak link, I think Jeff Heath's going to have an interception or two on Aaron Rodgers. He had one in the playoff game, Dak's rookie year. He's that kind of player that he gets in his own way a lot, but he can also bail you out when he has to. So I'm going to go with those two guys.
Okay. I think that's fair. If you're looking at this Packers offense, who kind of scares you the most outside of Aaron Rodgers?
I think the offensive line. I know that's not one particular player. I think they just, I remember going back a few weeks watching Aaron Rodgers play. There's a particular throw he had against the Bears where it is just the very opposite of textbook. He's scrambling around, running around, throws off his back foot, and it's just right where it had to be. He had just enough time to throw it. It was the most backyard-looking throw I've ever seen. But what's amazing is when you go back and watch that play, all the linemen are where they need to be. He's just protected. And it's amazing to see that as much as Rodgers can play from the pocket but also improvise, how well that O-line seems to just do it with him. So I do worry that they're going to be able to find a way to pretty much cancel out our pass rush.
I think there's going to be a little back and forth because Bulaga got hurt recently. Bakhtiari's not fully 100% right now. There's still some shuffling going on in the interior of this offensive line. Oh my, that was really bad.
He was wide open.
There's still some shuffling going on with the interior of this offensive line, but for the most part, it's pretty solidified. I just think when you have two really good units like the Cowboys front and the Packers offensive line, there's going to be some wins and losses on both sides. And I think it's going to be a really fun battle to watch. I just think that there's great matchups all over the place. We talked about Jair Alexander and Amari Cooper. We're talking now about the defensive line and linebackers for the Cowboys with the offensive line for the Packers. Aaron Rodgers, obviously. Aaron Rodgers, obviously, is always fun to watch. And even on the defensive side, I think it's going to be a lot of fun as well. So it's just, I think it's going to be a great game. So we're winding down here to the 2-minute mark. What is your prediction for Sunday? Give me a score and an outcome.
even though we had a very fun conversation, I'm going to go with what you said earlier, that I think it's going to be a defensive dogfight for a variety of reasons. But I do think the Cowboys find a way to win it 17-10.
17-10. I think that's a score that I'd bet on, honestly, because just these two teams are going to be missing key offensive pieces. The Packers and Devontae Adams most likely, and the Cowboys with Tyron Smith. And I think it's just the defenses are going to take over. I think for me, it's whatever team generates more turnovers, and that sounds like such a cop-out because, obviously whatever team generates more turnovers is going to win a game. But the team that's generating the more turnovers, I think that means that their defense is playing better. And so the better the defense, the more the chance of each team winning. So the team that wins the turnover battle will win this game. I think it's going to be Dallas. I think it's going to be something like 20-14. I think they'll get a couple scores because in reality these offenses are still pretty good even without some of their key pieces. They're still pretty good. So that's oh boy. He did not.
To piggyback off of your cliches of turnovers, I think it's also going to be just one of those deals where more so than the turnovers themselves, the field position, as the Packers are still trying to find that offensive identity, as the Cowboys really trying to find theirs, especially without weapons. Short fields are going to be a huge factor. Obviously, they always are, but you can predict a score like 17-10. A few field goals here and there can really be a game changer.
Well, speaking of, field position, J.K. Scott has been fantastic at punter for the Packers. I know you're very familiar with him being an Alabama fan. He's just so much fun, and he's a goofy kid, too. He just looks like he's always having a blast out there, and he's just kicking 60-yard bombs all day. So, he's very beloved by the Packer faithful right now, and he's having a great year to this point. Sean Benengo, the special teams coordinator, has done a fantastic job with him, and just kind of, I think, letting him loose. Last year, Ron Zook, who has been almost forbidden to speak thy name in Packer Kingdom, he kind of limited J.K. Scott, and I think Sean Benenga is really letting him loose this year, and it's kind of showing because he's just throwing 60, 65-yard bombs, five plus hang time in seconds consistently. So
I'm not sure how versed you are in Alabama special teams under Nick Saban. We now have 98 missed field goals, PATs, which leads the FBS by a margin of, I think, like 27, 28.
Oh, really?
We're winning by a lot. So to see J.K. Scott graduate and leave was probably, we just lost the insert legendary player here of our special teams unit, and he is hard to replace. It's the only time in my lifetime I can remember being a Cowboys fan wishing we draft a punter. I would have loved to have him. Not that our punter's bad, Dallas, but like you said, he's a fun guy. He hasn't aged since he was 12. He still looks as young as always. But you're right. He's 98% of the time you know what you're going to get with him. You do always have that one very anti-clutch shank that he's good for, but he always follows up with another 70-yard punt with 4 to 6 second hang time with great coverage.
Exactly, and that's a weapon in itself. And when your philosophy is shifting to what the Packers is, which is play defense and do enough on offense to win the game, that field position is key. So backing them up with a good punt and then playing effective defense it all kind of goes together. It all goes into that team mentality. So all in all, I think the Cowboys are currently 3.5-point favorites. Take away the 3 points for home advantage, and it's a 0.5 point advantage for the Cowboys, which is a very close game. So it's going to be a good game all around. It's a good matchup. I thank you again for coming on tonight. This is a lot of fun. These are always are. So love to have you on again in the playoffs, maybe if these two teams meet again.
Thanks you for having me. I certainly enjoyed it. Looks like you ended up winning the interception contest. Between the two of us, there was literally a dozen.
I threw 7.
So that'll be interesting to see if that plays out on Sunday. But yeah, dude, this was a blast. I'd love to do it again. Like I said, maybe it will be an NFC Championship matchup that we're on here again talking about this.
I think that is the Saints have put a strong resume forward right now, but I think these other two teams, Packers and Cowboys, are going to be right in that conversation when we get into January. But for now, we'll say goodbye. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. And then next week, I have the Lions, I believe. But my matchup opponent is to be determined. So stay tuned, and we'll see you next week.